What if I told you that everything you thought you knew about Tupac, Biggie, and Diddy was a lie? That Netflix, 50 Cent, and even Diddy himself kept this video of history locked away, hidden from the world, and now the truth is finally coming out. You're about to hear claims so explosive, so jaw-dropping, that if they're real, they could rewrite hip-hop history forever. Did Diddy know Tupac was walking into danger that night at Quad Studios? Was there $1 million check floating around that connects directly to his murder? And what about Biggie? Was his death really just bad luck? Or was someone orchestrating chaos while the world watched? Gandelia, the man who had a front row seat to the wildest, most dangerous moments in East Coast versus West Coast history, is breaking his silence. He's showing footage, sharing stories, and dropping evidence that 50 Cent, Netflix, and even Diddy probably prayed would never see the light of day. So buckle up. If you thought you knew the story, think again, because what Gandeal is about to reveal might just make you question everything you've ever believed about the deaths of Tupac and Biggie, and the man at the center of it all, Diddy. Alright, let's get into the heart of this mess. Gandeal is just some random bystander with stories to tell. He was there. He had the best seat in the house for the wildest, bloodiest, and most secretive moments of hip-hop history. Back in the 90s, when the East Coast and West Coast beef was spinning out of control, Gan was Diddy's personal bodyguard. He saw it all. He lived it. And now he's saying Netflix and 50 Cent left out the most critical pieces of the puzzle. Pieces that, if anyone follows them, could blow this entire industry's narrative apart. Think about it. A man who worked shoulder to shoulder with Diddy, who was in Vegas the night Tupac got shot, and in LA the night Biggie went down. This is not some I heard it from a friend of a friend story. Dan has footage, receipts, and first-hand accounts that 50 Cent apparently decided were too dangerous for the world to see. Dangerous enough that a multi-million-dollar Netflix deal went forward, but only with sanitized, safe, palatable truths. The man who was supposed to be the key voice, gone, silent, cut out, and Gan is not holding back anymore. Now, let's break down why this even matters. Tupac, Biggie, and Diddy are icons, legends, people who shaped a generation of music, culture, and, unfortunately, violence. But what Gan is revealing makes it clear. A lot of what the public has been told is just the tip of the iceberg. Diddy, according to Gan, was not just a passive observer. He allegedly had knowledge of what was about to happen to Tupac at Quad Studios and chose what? To do nothing. To watch. And the documentary, the one sold for millions and marketed as The Truth, doesn't mention a single word about that. Imagine that. The man in the middle of the chaos, the person who might have had a chance to prevent a tragedy, and it's completely scrubbed from the record. And it gets worse. Dan saw $1 million check connected to the whole situation, a check that links back to Jimmy Henchman and others in ways that could, if anyone traces it, reveal financial incentives behind the murder of one of the most influential rappers of all time. That's right, evidence sitting in plain sight that, until now, no one dared talk about. And Gan isn't just pointing fingers. He's providing specifics, names, dates, locations, everything. He's exposing the shadow world behind the glitz and glamour, the private conversations, the hidden deals, the warnings that were ignored. Gan also explains why he walked away from the Netflix deal. It wasn't ego. It wasn't stubbornness. It was simple respect for the truth. When the production team offered him peanuts compared to the value of the footage and the story he could tell, he refused. And now, freed from contracts and money negotiations, he's revealing everything. Because here's the kicker. This story doesn't just change the past, it challenges the people controlling the narrative today. And just when you think it couldn't get more intense, Dan drops the first real bombshell. He claims that Bad Boy vs. Death Row wasn't some sprawling coast-to-coast war. Forget the headlines. Forget the conspiracy theories. According to him, it was a CEO-level feud. Diddy versus Suge while the artists themselves were still doing shows, still collaborating, still crossing coasts without issue. But the public, they were sold a narrative of chaos, of gang wars, of East versus West, And now Gan is peeling back the curtain, exposing the truth the documentaries, articles, and social media have all been lying about. This video of this, Gan says, includes overlooked deaths, manipulated events, and orchestrated atmospheres. Situations were set up where violence became inevitable. People were warned, precautions were suggested, but Diddy allegedly ignored it all. And the Netflix documentary, clean as a whistle, no inconvenient truths, no $1 million checks, no warnings ignored, no evidence of his involvement in setting up circumstances that led to tragedy. And that's where this story gets dark. Dan Deal is not just telling tales, he's exposing an empire, the hidden infrastructure behind some of the most iconic and tragic events in music history. This isn't gossip, this is investigative, and it's about to shake everything you thought you knew about Tupac, Biggie, and the man at the center of it all, Diddy. Now, let's peel back the layers, because Gan Deal isn't holding anything back. He's dropping names, dates, and moments that make your jaw hit the floor. According to him, the Quad Studios shooting wasn't some random act of violence, it was carefully orchestrated, and Diddy allegedly knew exactly what was coming. He wasn't just nearby, he was positioned in Jimmy Henchman's office, fully aware Tupac was about to get shot. And yet, he did nothing. He didn't warn anyone. He didn't intervene. He just watched. That's the kind of detail that gets a documentary pulled from circulation, or at least heavily sanitized. And then there's the $1 million check. Dan says he saw it with his own eyes. This wasn't some vague claim from a rumor mill. He was there. He saw the check. And it directly connects to Blackground Records, Jimmy Henchman, and a financial trail that could tie back to Tupac's murder. Think about that for a second. A tangible piece of evidence sitting in the shadows for decades, completely ignored by mainstream media, and the fact that this never made it into Netflix's big budget, supposedly truthful Diddy documentary. It's hard to even describe how shocking that is. Gan also sheds new light on Biggie's murder. There were warnings calls, messages, people trying to prevent the inevitable, but Diddy allegedly refused to add more security or change plans. Worth Unique Hall supposedly warned Gan, "Vest up." That was all it took. One warning ignored, and history repeated itself in Los Angeles. And Gan paints a chilling picture of that night. Multiple threats, open gunfire, chaos, and Biggie's last moments. He even claims the drive to the hospital was unnecessarily long, putting Biggie's life at even greater risk. And the documentary? None of this. Silent, cleaned up, tidy. Then there's the cultural manipulation. Dan claims Diddy released songs strategically, like Who Shot Ya, that escalated tensions rather than easing them. He allegedly refused peace meetings that could have prevented tragedy. He allegedly created an atmosphere where violence was inevitable. Dan's argument is simple. You might not have pulled the trigger, but if you set the stage for death and ignore warnings, you're responsible. And Gan isn't shy about calling this out, repeatedly questioning whether Diddy should have taken responsibility. Public reactions are already heating up. Social media is buzzing with speculation, people questioning Diddy's involvement in events previously considered untouchable history. Anonymous sources within the industry reportedly whispering confirmations people who were there, saw the setups, and never spoke until now. Dan Deal's revelations are shaking the foundations of the narrative, and the public can't get enough of it. Conspiracy theorists are salivating, historians are questioning timelines, and fans of hip-hop are seeing their heroes in an entirely new and darker light. And here's the kicker: the legal ramifications. Some of Gan's claims involve checks, transactions, and direct financial incentives. If investigators take even a fraction of this seriously, tracing money, verifying sightings, and following the trail could reopen cases that were thought closed for decades. Netflix may have sanitized the story for legality, credibility, and profit, but Gan Deal is giving the public the raw, unfiltered version, one that could make lawyers sweat and historians rewrite history books. Gan Deal isn't just talking about gossip. He's exposing a pattern, control, influence, and the calculated orchestration of circumstances leading to some of the most notorious murders in music history. And the world is listening. Now we get to the fallout of this video, where the implications of Gan Deal's revelations start shaking the industry to its core. If any of this holds up under scrutiny, we're talking massive legal exposure. Diddy's lawyers have already sent cease and desist notices to Netflix, but Gan Deal's evidence is public now. And once something is public, it can't just be erased. Federal investigators could theoretically reopen inquiries into Tupac and Biggie's murders. Records of that $1 million check, testimonies from Kirk Burroughs, and financial trails from Jimmy Henchman could all be examined. This isn't just gossip, it's paper trails, witness accounts, and eyewitness testimony that could be pivotal. Gan also suggests that multiple people were complicit in keeping the truth hidden, people who had the power to prevent these murders but didn't. The atmosphere that Diddy allegedly created, combined with ignored warnings, could be seen as criminal negligence if prosecutors wanted to push the boundaries. And don't forget the East Coast versus West Coast narrative. Dan claims it was never really about the coast, it was about Bad Boy versus Death Row. If that framing holds, then the entire accepted history of hip-hop violence may need to be rewritten. We're talking about decades of misinformation being shattered in real time. Public reaction is already explosive. Social media threads are lighting up with people questioning the motives behind every major move in the 90s hip-hop scene. Was Tupac's shooting preventable? Did Diddy really have the power to stop it and choose not to? Could the same be said about Biggie? The comments, tweets, and viral clips show one thing clearly. People are shocked. And let's be honest, this is the kind of story that spreads faster than wildfire. You post a snippet, and the internet ignites with speculation, memes, and hot takes. Financially, Gan Deal's revelations could cause chaos too. If any of those checks or financial transactions are traced and verified, there could be lawsuits, settlements, or even criminal investigations into misappropriation of funds. Think about it, $1 million check tied to a label, allegedly linked to a murder plot, sitting dormant in public discourse for nearly 30 years. The implications are huge, and the industry knows it. Executives, artists, and managers may be quietly reviewing their own positions and exposure right now. And the personal fallout for Diddy. Reputation is everything in this world, and Gan Deal's expose doesn't pull punches. It paints a picture of a man who allegedly prioritized power, control, and jealousy over human lives. Whether or not Diddy directly pulled a trigger, Gan's narrative frames him as someone who set events in motion, ignored warnings, and allowed tragedy to happen. If even a fraction of the public believes this version of history, it could tarnish a legacy built over decades. Gan Deal is effectively daring the industry, fans, and investigators to confront these truths. He's calling out financial cover-ups, hidden alliances, and the orchestration of some of the darkest events in hip-hop history. And here's the kicker: this story is far from over. As more people digest Gan's claims, questions will grow louder. Will Netflix respond again? Will investigators act? Could there be arrests or high-profile testimonies? One thing is certain: the ripple effect of Gan Deal speaking out is only beginning. The music world and the world at large may never look at Tupac, Biggie, or Diddy the same way again. So now the big question is, what do you think? After hearing Gan Deal lay it all out, can we really ignore the possibility that Diddy played a role in the deadliest chapters of hip-hop history? Did he know about Tupac's shooting and do nothing? Were the warnings about Biggie ignored on purpose? And that $1 million check, who was really behind it? And what does it mean for the people still alive today? These aren't just hypotheticals. These are explosive claims backed by first-hand accounts, insider testimony, and evidence Gan Deal says he saw with his own eyes. The story doesn't end here. Every comment, every share, every discussion keeps the truth alive. We need to ask the tough questions. Should law enforcement reopen these cases? Will the public demand answers from the music industry? Could new investigations finally reveal the hidden players behind these legendary murders? So, I want to hear from you. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Do you believe Gan Deal Is Diddy guilty of negligence? Or is this video of hip-hop conspiracy theories? Hit like if you're shook by these revelations. Subscribe to stay updated on every explosive detail. And share this video, because the world deserves to hear the truth. The story is far from over, and you're witnessing history unfold.